One person. Hey, Regina, how are you? See you. How about somebody just say, hey, we can hear you, Cliff. When I take yes, and you can hear me. All right. Dino Lover, thank you. Sheldon, my man. Good to see you. Diana, thank you. Cynthia, awesome. Monica, well, oh, they're coming fast and furious. I gotta go, sorry, everybody, I gotta go check where we are and get ready to do my intro. Hey, welcome back, guys. I am, as usual, coming to you from the Queen City, the Radio City. And we have much to discuss today. We're gonna have Bill Corbett on a little bit later, who is amazing comedian, Mystery Science Theater 3000. You got to know that. I've done a lot of other stuff. It's actually coming on in about 10, 15 minutes, and we're going to have a blast. Hello to you, too. I got from Deborah Corbett from, is that Central Oregon? We like folks from all over. Please, by the way, guys, subscribe to the channel. I'll tell you that right away. Please join the Patreon or YouTube membership. We're revamping that. It's going to be awesome. And, you know, let's be involved here more. There's going to be a lot going on. This is going to be growing. We're even adding one or two contributors, people whose names I think you've heard of. There's fun afoot. Before we get to the fun, though, we got to get to the jacks, as in the jack-offs. I don't know. I may have demonetized myself already. I don't care. I was going to do a rant today on how much butt Democrats are kicking, and they are, from Jim McGovern to John Fetterman to Dan Goldman, but I feel like I can save that for some of my videos. Today, I want to talk about a very specific species that exists out there. They're known as billionaires, and they mostly suck. They mostly are responsible for the fact that we do not have universal health care, that we don't have universal family medical leave. Some of them are responsible for the fact that Trump is kowtowing to Putin. They are a danger to our country. I think it was Justice Louis Brandeis, who I believe it was Brandeis, who once said, you can either have vast disparities in wealth or a democracy. You can't have both. Peter Thiel, right-wing lunatic loser, James Bond bad guy who wants to live forever, and is, you know, his little clique of J.D. Vance and Vivek Ramaswamy and the rest of them. Yeah, that guy, he's talked about capitalism and democracy as being incompatible. So he would choose capitalism. That's who we're dealing with. The vast majority of them on the Republican side, something like 40 of them, I believe, gave more money than the whole rest of everybody else did to Republicans through small donations. Elon Musk is an unelected loser with an EQ of a pile of dung, and he's sitting there in closed door rooms, even though nobody elected him to anything, making decisions. That's called oligarchy. And that's where we've been headed. Ever since the Reagan years, we're like, oh, you know, let's cut that top tax rate from the 70s to the 20s. Let's start looking at efficiency. The University of Chicago Business School said, and efficiency to them was monopolies. Here's what we need to do. Now, look, I'm going to start by saying there are a couple of billionaires that support our side. George Soros, who's, of course, always ripped apart by them because he's a fun one to have anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about. But Warren Buffett, Mark Cuban, who I happen to actually know, who's terrific. Michael Bloomberg, not with us on everything, but we wouldn't be where we are on guns, and we're a lot better than we were 20 years ago, and choice and climate, and he fights for immigration. Okay, and I'm always going to point out there are exceptions, but most billionaires suck, and they're a failure of our policy. People shouldn't be amassing 20, 50, $100 billion from this country. Little wimps like Jeff Bezos, who today just said, oh, I think Trump's going to be great for us. I'm glad we didn't endorse. Yeah. My response to that is raise his tax rate, his top tax rate. Let's say anything he makes above, I don't know, 50 million a year. We slap a 90% tax rate on. And then on top of that, let's break his frickin' company into about 1,000 little pieces. How many local bookstores have been put out of business? How many people has he destroyed with what he's done? They don't care about anything. They are bad for us in every single way. They distort and destroy our economy. They take most of the money out of it, sits in foreign bank accounts. Yeah, maybe I buy a yacht here and there. They're not buying products. The people that would be out there buying don't have the funds to do it because these guys are sitting on a huge amount of wealth that's in banks and invested with foreign dictators and who knows, laundered by drug cartels. And no, I'm not saying anybody specifically, but the fact of the matter is that they're working with some of the worst people in the world, and they always do, and they always defend them. Elon Musk reflexively defending China because he needs to sell Teslas. His crappy car that blows up, the one he turned into something called a Cybertruck that literally looks like a toaster turned upside down on wheels. Whoever the hell's spending $100,000 on that piece of crap. We have to deal with, again, I mentioned before, I don't know if he's a billionaire, but little Vivek Ramaswamy from my part of town here, from Cincinnati, pencil neck dork, who is out there right now and is talking about all these programs he's going to cut, like veterans benefits. I mean, of course, Vivek Ramaswamy has done a ton for our country. Whoa, is he sacrificed? We should definitely listen to that guy, the one that did a pump and dump scheme to make his money. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Billionaires are destroying us. Monopoly is destroying us. Why do we have 6 media companies controlling about 80% of what you see in here? Well, why is it that Walmart has crushed every local store in towns across the country and people have lost jobs? Why is it that these monopolies that will just send jobs abroad? They don't have any feeling for anybody locally. They don't live locally. They don't care. That's what all these white Trump voters don't get. They think they care about them? It's real simple, guys. When we say Democrats have a messaging problem, there isn't. I would argue with that somewhat, but that's not even what's important here. They bring up trans. You bring up Elon Musk jumping in the air like he's Tom Cruise on a Today Show couch, sitting in a back room somewhere with his negative EQ, negotiating deals and doing God knows what for our government when nobody elected him. Okay? They mention immigrants. You mentioned Peter Thiel, some weirdo, self-hating gay man who lives in California, so his marriage is safe, but is out there to destroy everybody else's and has some weird James Bond bad guy thing where he wants to live forever. You want to wonder who those experiments get done on and whose money is going to be used for that? Yeah, he wants to create cybernetics so he can live forever. Honestly, his ever having lived at all was to the detriment of society. And no, I'm not advocating violence. I'm just saying, world where he never existed, I think we would have been better off. But living forever, I mean, we may as well end the whole project now. How far away are we from the sun crashing into the earth again? Because, I think I choose that over him. I can repeat myself over and over again, but Democrats should have a message. FDR once stood up and said, I invite their hatred. Invite their hatred, Democrats. Again, there are a few folks who amassed large amounts of money, did it legitimately, and then just inherit the family money. The Uihleins here who did a package company want to come and tell everybody women how to control their bodies and whatever. They, of course, also had every tax break and everything else you can imagine. We don't need to be listening to people like Steve Wynn, sexually harassed a lot of people, which is, I don't know why he's not in the cabinet. Should be a spot for him. In any case, they're awful, most of them. They're terrible people. They're greedy. They don't care. They destroy the environment. They destroy our relationships with foreign countries. They're in hock with Putin, Orban, Erdogan, the Netanyahu, the worst of the worst out there. And they distort and destroy our economy. So we have a mass inequality of wealth among the people. And they leave, honestly, like locusts everywhere they go once they've left. It's been completely destroyed. They are the aliens from Independence Day. I think Jeff Goldblum actually used that line about locusts or whatever. That's what I've got to say today. I have a feeling that I think I have 2 people on here right now, and I have a feeling that Tony Michaels was here for a couple minutes, and Bill Corbett, great actor and writer. I should say Tony Michaels, the great radio broadcaster, because Tony deserves his due too. But I talked to Tony a lot. Bill, who I couldn't say enough amazing things about as a talent, as a funny guy, and has strong political opinions that I think he may agree with me on the billionaires. I'm not quite sure, though. Maybe Bill has a soft spot for them. We're going to see. But I'm going to get them both on here right now. Thanks for listening to what I had to say. Let's get to the next portion of the program. That has been Cliff's Note.
Hey, how are you?
Good. And
hey, guys. Bill. Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Bill, Tony at all?
What'd you say? No, I don't. Hi, Tony. Nice to meet you.
Hey, good to see you, Bill. Good to see you.
You guys would be
go
simpatico. I'm just saying quickly, you guys would be simpatico on a lot because both of you don't give a crap and aren't scared of speaking out about what you believe in, and that upsets some people in both parties and everywhere else in our society. So,
Cliff, since I've seen you last, though, I really have gotten into billionaires. I really like them a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna have some words here about what you just said.
Did you set up an altar somewhere, Bill, to worship those billionaires? Is it on Twitter? Is it on? Do you go to Twitter and do your daily prayer to the oligarchs? Is it what you,
Yeah, I'm finally getting a little under the table. Finally.
Well, hey, you know,
Thank
you gotta
you,
get yours
Soros.
how you get it, right?
right, all of us with our Soros checks. Here, TJ, love Corbett. We all love Corbett. That is definitely, definitely something that's true. But yes, Soros checks, whatever. And, you know, the irony, of course, guys, is I actually, and I like to say this because it's fun to piss them off. I've actually been paid by George Soros before. I found out through another entity. I know I'm evil. I got paid on a project fighting for abortion rights by the Buffett Foundation, you know, by Bloomberg when it came to guns. And again, he's bad on a lot of economic issues, but at least on some social ones. So, but my point is simply, well, I like to use that just to upset them, the Soros thing. But the fact of the matter is most of these folks, I shouldn't call them folks, most of these bastards are on their side, the vast majority of them. Okay. And they're destroying this country in every way possible. I don't need to. I'm repeating myself again, but I want to talk a little bit about that. And
I will say that speaking of George Soros, it is kind of a new age that we live in, where the richest man in the world who bought Donald Trump's presidency goes to Donald Trump's mansion in South Florida, Mar-a-Lago, and declares to all the oligarchs in the room that he is the George Soros of the right. And they're all cheering and clapping, and he's all excited. And I'm like, this is the most ridiculous time that we live in, because they are literally worshiping the oligarchs, and it's oligarchy worshiping oligarchy, and it's just one big circle jerk of rich people. and you know, that's where we're at, and that's where we're headed. And I think next year is going to give a pretty good image to the working class in this country. What happens when you give the monopoly the entire government?
Mm-hmm. Well said.
I think that's absolutely right. And I think the point I was bringing up before about Soros is, it's not that they haven't put money into anything, but they paid me to do actual consulting projects. Right. They didn't sit there like these jackwads on the right and just pump money into, hey, why don't you, Project Veritas or whoever you're, go out there and just cause trouble. Here's a couple mil. Here, Ben Shapiro, I guess you didn't get as good of I was going to make a Jewish joke. I can get away with it. Like, I guess you didn't get as good of an inheritance from grandma as you needed. So we'll pay for your Facebook ads to take your little, again, this is a guy, I'm going to say it again and again. I steal this line from Deadpool. This is a guy who sounds like he mouth sex to helium balloon. Okay. That's the way he talks. He makes a muscle and it sort of falls downward. He actually does that on camera. And
Cliff,
somehow,
I have seen him at Home Depot buying 1 2x4. So I think he is a real man's man.
Oh, yeah, he's a tough guy. And
one single 2x4 like wrapped up.
And he was a creation. There were millions at one point tracked that were being spent on Facebook. And maybe it was grandma's inheritance. That's a line from Dodgeball. I built this gym by myself from Ben Stiller. And of course, a large inheritance from Grandma Goodman. But I mean, these people they've propped up who aren't even talented, and we won't even support our talented people, talkers, writers, debaters, thinkers, columnists, whatever. And it's created, obviously it's created this huge imbalance. I'll kick it back to you guys.
Yeah. Cliff, speaking of Ben Shapiro, I would pay, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson kind of money to watch you debate him, because long time ago when I first got to know you, I thought you were really good at, to use a real stupid Silicon Valley word, hacking the disinformation system on cable TV. And this was back, when the Bush 2, all those freaks were coming out of the woodwork. Some of them are still the same freaks. What was that woman you absolutely nuked at one point?
Clea Mitchell. She is
Clea Mitchell.
She's one of the Forrest Gumps of evil. She'll show up like she worked for delay, worked for the NRA, worked for overthrowing the election. She'll be anywhere where there's some evil to be done.
Yeah, something grubby happening. She'll be there. I thought you were really good at hacking what they did because liberals are so polite. Like they would get like a Washington Post columnist. I can't Eugene Robinson, very nice guy, good writer, but just like he's a writer. And he wouldn't like put up his dukes when he would be on one of those, talking heads panels. And then one day I saw you on TV doing that, not letting them interrupt you, interrupting them, absolutely short-circuiting their whole method of doing it. And that's what Shapiro relies on. He just keeps yammering at you like a little, chihuahua. And he talks fast and he seems to be smart, but it's just like he's cosplaying a smart guy. So I think you could absolutely get underneath that and body slam.
I appreciate it. That's very kind of you. I'll say, first of all, I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's not one of them that if we're in a place where I know they can't turn off my microphone or my camera or whatever, not one of them. I'll do it on a street corner. I'll do it anyway. I will debate any one of those punks. And I'm sorry, I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but I will rip them in two. I mean, they're so easy. They're so transparently fake. But the second thing is, people here should know. I mean, the way I met Bill. Let's put this up here by Jim because this is great. I met Bill because I went on these series of things. Cleta Mitchell's the one that a lot of people have seen, but there are about a half dozen of them that back in a pre-viral age, before Twitter and when Facebook was young, still went viral because people shared them via emails and shared them on Daily Kos and whatever. And to make this quick, because I don't need to talk about myself a lot. It's more how I met you.
Go ahead.
Somebody was like, be a happy warrior, be like Cliff, go on there, rip them apart. This is how you do it. And I wanted to find that person because I didn't know who it was. It's like if one of you folks in the comment section here, and I just wanted to thank them. And so I sent a thank you to Bill. He was under a pseudonym. And I had no idea. And then I found out who he was and like, oh my God, I love you on Mystery Science Theater too. So now, that was a huge compliment coming from somebody who obviously knows how to communicate and make people laugh. And yes, I mean, again, they of course did, it's funny in the time right now because we just heard about what went on with David Frum on MSNBC, and they banned me after that for a while because that was the MSNBC where they had Tucker Carlson still on the show and they still had Alan Keyes. The human punching bag. Yes. Remember Michael Horowitz, that crazy radio host who is like a lunatic who would go.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to him. He's probably in an alleyway somewhere.
He's probably ranting at the heavens right now.
Exactly. So
I just want to say that I went and followed Bill on Blue Sky, and I've got to go. But Bill, it's great to hear from you. Great to see you.
Oh, thanks.
Great to be. So everyone go to Blue Sky, like Jim said, and go to the Blue Place, the Echo Chamber, and follow Bill so we can all echo at each other.
And anywhere else you can follow Bill too,
yes,
because he's
absolutely
phenomenal. And obviously Tony goes without saying. You all,
I mean, I'm the best in the world. I mean, obviously, hello, and really, Bill, if you like hard-hitting liberals, don't come watch my show. I promise that I put on my soft gloves and I don't put any. Yeah,
I don't want to get scared. I don't want to get scared by impolite language.
Tony doesn't hold back. And the last thing I'll say, I said this. Matt McNeil, who I know, Bill, another Minnesotan, came on.
He's a buddy.
I enjoyed the fact. I'm like, hey, look, it's a couple of white guys all sitting in the Midwest. How crazy. And we're talking about stuff like, I thought we were only allowed to do that if we lived in New York or DC, but it seems that we can have Tony from the Ozarks and have you from Minneapolis and me from Cincinnati, and we haven't been cut off yet. Yeah. It's crazy.
Right. It's the flyover deep state that we are. Bill, Cliff, I've got to head out. Good to see you both.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Thanks for being here, buddy.
Oh, man. All right, I didn't hog all his time, Cliff.
No, the way we do this is I met Tony, and Tony's been so kind and really introduced a lot of his audience to me. And so he has one of these right before mine. So I would go on his show.
That's cool.
And then he would have me, and then he would send his crowd here, and I go on, and he'd come on here with me just the first 5 or 10 minutes.
I see.
And so it's like a handoff, and it's cool, and we're on each other's shows a lot, so it's awesome.
I like that he had a Muhammad Ali poster in back of him there.
Yes, that's a good thing. So, how you feeling about? We'll start with politics, and then, as I've said to people, the folks I've had on the last 2 days, we had, a good friend of mine, Jamie Schler, who was on yesterday, who's a award-winning cookbook writer, just terrific person, lives in France, and we got the view from abroad, from American living abroad, but we also got the view from somebody. She talked also about food, about other things. We had John Fugelsang, who talked about his religious background and his upbringing. And I want to do the same thing with you, Bill, because you have such an interesting background and an interesting guy. But let's start with the political stuff, and then we'll get to that, which is what the hell's wrong with our country? And can Donald Trump, is there any circle of hell or any dung heap anywhere, or just any place you think he could go to find a larger group of miscreants than the ones he's currently picked?
It is astounding, isn't it? As bad as I thought it would be, it's like, wow, at every turn he's gone even underneath that expectation. It's almost comical if it weren't so tragic. For political stuff, as I was messaging you the other day, I feel like I am the dumbest guy in the world about politics, because right before the election I thought, like, we have this in the bag, and obviously not, so I am terrible at predicting stuff. Terrible.
I had to apologize in the end to my folks here, because I started about a month before, and I said, look, so if you're terrible at this, I am too. I looked at everything that had been the answers to every election since 2016 that had allowed me to come pretty close to nailing it exactly in a lot of those. And there are a whole lot of reasons, from the step up in their disinformation apparatus to sadly realizing that whatever percent of this country can't vote for a black woman because they're idiots, to the fact that she had to do it all in 90 days and didn't have a full time to campaign. I mean, there are a lot of things, and incumbents lost across. We've never had. It's been 70 years. The last time I think every incumbent in a democracy has lost in recent elections because of post-COVID. We still haven't, there's still been lingering effects like inflation,
No doubt.
whatever. There are a lot of reasons for it, but look, I got it wrong too. So,
all right. Well, somebody smarter than me got it wrong. Good. I also think voter suppression is underrated as a reason at this point, because it just keeps chugging on and getting worse and chugging on and getting worse. And so the mountain that any non-Republican candidate has to climb is getting steeper.
Yes. And nobody talks about it. Like I brought this up the last show I was on too, or it was either with John or with Jamie. So one of the last two, which is Ohio, Georgia, Texas, Florida. Those are 4 big states. I mean, this state, is the smallest, and we've got, I think, about 13 million people.
Mm-hmm.
And you have secretaries of state sitting there and saying, well, you didn't vote 2 elections in a row, so I'm purging you from the voting rolls. And so when it comes to, we're not even talking now about, what they do to create big lines and not give enough voting booths, and what they do, when Russia's calling in bomb threats and all the rest, but just in basic taking people off the rolls and making sure their votes don't count. I got to believe between these 4 states, I mean, we're talking about a total of at least 500,000 voters that we're losing. And my guess is it's a lot more than that.
Yeah. And I think all the people who have run into that brick wall over the years are not going back, because it's all right. Well, the system is rigged against me.
Yep.
And this is where we get into that thing that I heard you saying right before I came on, where it's like, we have to name what is, we have to, when I say we, I know you are, I know I am on my various social media things, but I would like to see the Democratic National Party actually, in very plain language, say stuff that is going on. You don't hear much about, them cheating in that word. They are cheating, and they let people like liars like Trump come along and use those words and grab them for himself. And just, as many people have pointed out over the years, absolute projection, and accuse others of what you're doing. And I think Democrats, if they just hit on a couple of simple messages like that, it would at least help. Like, they are trying to cheat you. They don't want you to vote. They don't want you to vote. and I think that would have an impact in a way that more lawyerly language lacks. Put it that way.
Oh, again, and that's why I wish we would consult you. I talked to John Fugelsang the other day, because here we have this sort of group cash collection, whatever you'd like to call it, of people that are so creatively talented in places like Hollywood, on Broadway, in creating theater, in creating sort of moments, spectacle. And we don't use, we for the most part don't use them. Instead, we use these same, 10 consultants in DC who write the same crap. And I've told people before, the only reason why I got the opportunity to write ads for Biden in 2020 is because of COVID, because nobody could travel. So they were producing the ads. We were writing them. So it was like a virtual writer's room. I was writing ads, but because they were producing them, they weren't giving nearly as high fees for booking the ads. And so all these guys in DC, all these people didn't want to do it, because God forbid they make less than a couple $1 million and so I did it, and they still paid me what I thought was a very handsome amount of money.
Yeah.
And to me,
Ohio money.
Right. As I say, in Ohio here, it allows me to buy enough dogs and cats to eat for at least 3 weeks. And that's what's important.
You're the one who was doing it. Damn it.
I was eating the dogs. I was eating the cat. Okay. But I mean, that's the thing is that we should be listening to people that are Hollywood writers and producers. I always point out, like, we have these two key groups: Hollywood writers and trial lawyers. And trial lawyers, the whole thing is creating a story for a jury, is telling people, here's a very simple story, like you'd read in a comic book. These are the good guys. These are the bad guys. The bad guys did this to harm all of us. The good guys are doing this to help us. I mean, it really is that simple, and are on your side. And that's what you're saying is, I mean, why we haven't turned their billionaire oligarch, we should probably just call them oligarchs, their oligarch class, into something negative. I mean, I'm sorry, if the people on our side who are wealthy, who are Democrats, get offended, they ought to look back to what I said during my opening talk with FDR. FDR was wealthy. Mm-hmm. And he came from a wealthy family, and he still stood up and said, bring it on. I want you to hate me because I'm going to help regular people. John Kennedy wanted to help regular people, came from a wealthy family. I'm not saying nobody can be wealthy and be empathetic, but what you can't do if you're wealthy is get offended when we talk about billionaires who are mostly just the most awful people in the world, and monopolies that are destroying us. Yeah. So why won't Democrats do that? And that's what they need to do. And you know what? I'm going to keep doing it. So I guess maybe I'll be a lonely voice, and maybe I'll end up with a placard out in the corner somewhere talking about the apocalypse coming. But I'm doing it, Bill.
I look forward to seeing you on a street corner in a greasy raincoat.
The end is nigh.
Weird. I don't know why at some point the Democrats, and I suspect it is related to the financial stuff and the financialization of everything, and the Democratic Leadership Council and that whole movement, the third way, that they have decided that being seen as fighters, actually naming enemies, is a bad thing, that it's better to be seen as virtuous people who want to work in a bipartisan way. And I swear to God, if I have to hear the word bipartisan one more time, I'm going to put a fist through the wall. And it's not to say that is not some, horrible thing in the abstract. But in reality, when you have one side bragging about how bipartisan they are, and Chuck Schumer saying, like, well, we hope to do things with our Republican friends, and the other friend is saying, I will eat your baby's heart, basically day in and day out. It makes Democrats seem, I hate to say it, sorry, Tim Waltz, but weird, to borrow his word. It makes them seem weird that they are letting themselves be beat up by these people, and untrustworthy, because I don't trust a person who doesn't fight back after they are repeatedly pounding me in the face, or them. You know what I mean, though? It's like, it's just not.
Of course I do.
It's not a stance that most Americans recognize as a reasonable or trustworthy person. Like, they can't even fight for themselves. They're not going to fight for me,
I think we all look at it that way. I mean, I sit there and, It's funny. I mean, you brought up those TV debates I did and other things I've done like that. Writing, which I try to bring some of that into my writing. And I'm always like, I don't get it. I don't. I guess maybe I'm wired differently because I don't understand how people wouldn't do that. If somebody is calling me anti-American, is attacking my family, if they happen to be immigrants here, or for their sexual orientation, or again, I'm not religious and even really very culturally Jewish, but it is the background of my family, and for that or something, I want to punch him in the face. I mean, and I can't do that legally, although Trump may make that legal soon. We'll have to see. But so what I do is I do it in my writing, I do it in my debating, and when I would come off of those sets, first of all, I loved when I would come off a set and the people around Fox would just be staring at me.
Yeah,
I often felt like they were going to pull out pitchforks and come for me if I didn't get out of the station in time.
But they were too scared because you fought back. They're used to people
Yeah, Hannity banned me and actually called me an asshole on live TV.
Good.
And I was proud of it. And again, this is not bragging. Like I just, if you have any pride, I don't get it. I don't get how you can sit there and let somebody say such awful things about you and your country and what we all stand for and everything. And then your response is, well, shame on you. Like, yeah, okay. The person who just said that has a lot of shame. So that's definitely going to work.
We are so far past shame. Like that doesn't even enter the equation. Like, you can't embarrass somebody without shame. People should have learned that about Trump the first 5 minutes they heard him open his mouth. You're a New Yorker like me. I mean, we're both in the Midwest, but I grew up delivering the New York Daily News every day since I was 12 years old. And I remember Trump's fat face in that paper even then. So that's how long he's been in my life, since I was a kid, and I have gray hair now. But I also feel like, he's not subtle, and he's less subtle than he even used to be. And so if you're treating him like the noble opposition, you've lost the plot right out of the gate.
Yeah. I mean, again, look, you also, it's sort of like in the same way targeting billionaires, you got to be consistent. So if you say that this guy is a threat to everything, which he is quite clearly, then, and again, I'm going to criticize Joe Biden. And I thought legislatively, Biden was one of the most successful Democrats, not just because I wrote ads for him in 20. And to be clear, I haven't worked
That's
for
why
him
he did
then.
it. That's why
you
put him on the right path, Cliff.
Well, thank you. But you know what? When they wouldn't join us in a bipartisan fashion on, as you bring up that word, it went on the stimulus bill. That's the one that got shots in arms and got people back to work.
Yeah.
When they didn't support that, when they refused to support the Inflation Reduction Act, we did it on our own, and we helped the country. I mean, in a perfect democracy, yes, you want bipartisanship because, of course, in a democracy that's functioning, you want to show people that parties solve their differences and work together. We're not dealing with that. We're dealing with a fascistic force that doesn't resemble a party in a democracy. It resembles a cult movement.
And it is not for a long time, too. This is like, it even predates Trump. I mean, George W. Bush the second. I mean, you could argue Reagan, like those days where that it was already gone. But whatever it was then, it's such a more obvious version of it now than anybody play acting like it's Tip O'Neill and Reagan going out and having a beer. It's like, come on, man. Get with the 21st century.
Right. Do we think they didn't pave the path for it? I mean, I talked about it back then. They were getting up and selling that lie about post-birth abortion, which, by the way, doesn't even make sense, in their 2016 primaries. And I remember pointing out back then that it was a night, I think Ted Cruz spoke about it, said something about it or whatever. And it was like a few days later or a week later, I don't remember when it was, that a crazy dude walks into a Colorado Springs Planned Parenthood and starts shooting people and mumbling about baby parts, which was exactly the phrase that Cruz used. So they started doing that stuff. Mitch McConnell turning the filibuster, which is an accident of history, doesn't exist in the Constitution, into something where suddenly we have to have 60 votes for everything, holding up a justice for a year on complete BS. And then the next time he gets an opportunity, while we're still voting, puts a justice on the court. I mean, they broke so many of those norms of the way, Newt Gingrich, I feel like, was almost of the beginning. I know there was in Reagan before that too, but Gingrich was the first time that somebody controlled a major branch of the Republican Party who was an out and out clown who had no morals and no values and just wanted to enrich himself and attack the other side. And, it just kept getting worse through the Bush years and heck of a job Brownie, and then we get Sarah Palin. So, no, I mean, they damaged our democracy. They caused division among our own people in a way because they labeled Democrats as enemies, as evil, as awful, as murderers with their post-birth abortion thing. And then, so when you do all of that and you stuff the courts with your people and whatever, then of course Trump comes along because you've already damaged the democratic, the sort of democratic culture so much that someone like him can.
Yep. Yeah. And it's funny you should bring up Gingrich because he's somebody I often feel like is a little bit forgotten now. I know he pops up, his ghost and his weird wife pop up every now and then.
She's got the Kash Patel eyes.
Right.
I may have to do a side-by-side Kash Patel, her, and then Charles Manson. I think they all have the same eyes.
Yeah. But I remember he had that list along with, I can't remember the guy who takes all the polls, Republican guy. He he's every 4 years they give him airtime.
That schmuck.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know who I mean then. But he and Gingrich came up with the list of words you should use in describing liberals. And it was the worst stuff in the world. This was
sick, evil, twisted, treasonous,
Yeah.
And
went
again,
on
folks,
and on
this was
and
an
on.
earlier time when our representatives didn't refer to each other that way.
Right. Exactly. But, I think Democrats should just break out that list and start going to town.
No, I do too. I mean, this has been my fight. And again, what I was going to say about Biden before is, again, and whether it was bipartisan, the thing that was smart bipartisan, because I know this because I live here in Cincinnati, we connect to northern Kentucky, and there were two bridges basically falling down that you couldn't take anymore because you might die. Pieces of them were falling. Mitch McConnell wanted them fixed. He went to them on the infrastructure bill, and he found that they needed something, played that brilliantly, so they got the fixes they need, and we got, so in that case, it was smart being bipartisan. On the gun bill, it was smart. Republicans wanted to at least make it look like they were doing something on guns, and it wasn't nothing. They closed two huge loopholes with that bill. We need a lot more. So it's not that bipartisanship is bad, and if it can help you get stuff through, but no, it's not a requirement. And if the other side's acting crazy, so I will give him credit and all of that, but I really am bothered by the sitting down and shaking Trump's hand in front of a nice fireplace. I mean, the last time we had an election, we had people who looked like spiders crawling up the walls of the Capitol to go and break in wearing Camp Auschwitz T-shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you're going to tell us he's a threat, then you can't treat him like a non-threat. I don't think he should have been invited. I don't think that they should have. I mean, I think normally you do show that kind of respect but no, not for this guy. Absolutely not. And go ahead.
No, I don't have much to add except that's just Biden. That's who he is, who he's always been, and he's the product of another time. He pleasantly surprised me in the liberal economic policies that he did pursue, because I don't even know him as that guy from his history. So that was like, good. They can change.
Yep.
But I think in
on
terms
abortion
of political
rights too.
culture, in terms of political culture, he's a norms and peaceful transfer of power guy. And it's a confusing message. It's like he's a fascist threat and the country won't survive him. Hey, welcome, buddy. Yeah, it just doesn't compute.
And that's all I'm saying. Because I really, you may not fully agree with me, but I think mostly I have some foreign policy quibbles and a few other things, here and there. And I do think he should have been more aggressive, as I do think all Democrats should be in more areas. But I do think, legislatively, it was an incredibly impactful presidency when he was up against it from the beginning and very economically progressive. And obviously, what he passed to help in terms of the funding for clean energy, which was unprecedented in the Inflation Reduction Act. So there was a lot of good there. But I wish he weren't doing that
labor in quite some time for Democrats.
Yeah.
That impressed
Yep.
me.
But what
And
I
I
want
didn't-
right now, well, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I didn't really see that coming because I do remember Obama, who I adored, had the most political talent in 10 generations, was promising, he'd be a buddy to labor, and he just kind of gave that a pass.
Yeah.
But Biden, I just think it's his old school, working guy roots came back.
I think you're right. I do. And so again, the normalizing I have a serious problem with. Especially after, again, I'll probably end up mentioning this every single show that I do. The massive failure of Merrick Garland. I started with a rant last time when they just, pointing out that South Korea ended theirs in 8 hours, and Bolsonaro within 6 months was in a court where they said you can't run till at least 2030, and now was indicted.
Yeah.
And the timeline almost matches up so insultingly because it was January of 2023 that they had their insurrection in Brazil, and he got indicted in November of 2024. Well, it was January of 2021 that we had our insurrection, and in November of 2022, not only were we not indicting him, that's when Merrick Garland decided to first appoint Jack Smith.
Yeah.
Wasted a year and 3 quarters doing I don't know what. And that's the reason none of these guys, and never went after any of the congressional members. We have all their texts. Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, another one just came out. Heard of Kelly Loeffler, who just got nominated for the Small Business Administration. About we've got a plan to deal with the electors. I mean, there's so much evidence in texts in their meetings at the Willard Hotel. Mike Lee and Ted Cruz that these guys should have been indicted or at least investigated. I mean, I don't understand how that is not sedition. And we just didn't do it. So here they are. They all got reelected.
They're all back, and it's unimaginable, and yet here we are. I kind of feel like it was almost too late once he appointed Smith, because he did it what seemed to me, and maybe I have my timelines wrong, Cliff, but didn't he do it pretty much at the same time Trump announced, or right after, or something like that?
So I'm trying to remember when Trump announced. I looked this up because I wanted to get it right when I was doing my opening sort of commentary the other day. And it was November, I want to say 18th. So it seemed like he purposely, because we don't want to look political. And again, this is the thing with the Democratic Party. They will attack you for being political. Guess what, Merrick Garland? You're still, that enemies list of Kash Patel's that was released, you're still on it.
Yeah.
You saved nothing by trying to bend over backwards for these people, because nothing is ever good enough for them and will be. And I don't understand how people don't get that. So it's like he sat there. It happened in January, of 21. And what did he decide to do? He's like, well, it'll be too political if we do it, and it ends up being a trial around the midterms or something. Well, too effing bad. I don't care. They chose to do it. They can pay the damn political price for it, among other prices they should pay, like losing their freedom. But so I don't know if that's why he waited till then, but whatever the reasoning was, I mean, my God, 18 months or whatever it was, those were crucial. That was a crucial period of time. And there could have been up to probably 24 members of the House and Senate and others, in addition to Trump, indicted, so that we would never have to worry about them running for office again. Mm-hmm. And instead, I mean, so, okay, I have to do a Garland rant every time, because
Please
honestly,
do. Music to my ears.
I hate him. I mean, I believe that our democracy is in the situation it's in. He is up there with the mainstream media and certain other forces as one of the worst culprits. Brazil and South Korea are better democracies than we are.
Mm-hmm.
So let's stop talking about ourselves as exceptionalist. The only exceptionalism we seem to have is that we like criminals to get away with it. I don't know. Maybe that's our exceptionalism.
It seems like powerful people can't be held responsible in this country, and that's where I think it connects to your billionaire thing, because I do think that if enough powerful people, the people that we consider the power behind the power in this country, were okay cleaning house, we'd probably have it, But the fact that Trump got so much ultra rich guy support, and I think that actually intimidates Democrats. I hate to say it. I don't like to think of them as cowards, but I just feel like they are intimidated by money, and some of them want that money, and they don't want to be. They don't want the gravy train to stop for them.
Look, some are, yeah, and some aren't, but there are enough of them. You're right. They get scared or get, and again, I get yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's all. Like I mean, there's the obvious ones like Manchin, but then there's also like Gavin Newsom, who's a weirdo, because like every now and then he'll be like, "Well, this guy'd be great. He's a fighter. He's articulate. He looks the part. He's saying the right thing." On the other hand, he feels the need to kiss Elon Musk's ass, and it's like, what? You're just confusing the message here. You're not really confusing the message. You're trying not to alienate money. And that's
what's funny is,
systemic problem.
It's funny because I actually did a commentary where I was saying how pleased I was that Gavin Newsom was speaking up and went to Congress and had called Trump out and was doing this special session. But I get what you're saying. I didn't know if he did kiss, because I have seen a couple Democrats kiss Elon Musk's butt. Jared Polis did, and I hadn't seen that. If he did that, that actually pisses me off.
Yeah, I might be not being fair, but
if he did it, no one anywhere should be kissing Elon Musk's butt.
Yeah, that guy should be in a dungeon somewhere.
Right. I mean, again, you're not going to appease Elon Musk. He's not going to help you. So you know what I mean? So stop thinking you're going to get somewhere. Look, there are plenty. I wish the game didn't have to be played this way, but yes, you have to raise money from people. And there are plenty of people who have lots of money in the Democratic Party who also are very liberal. We only lost by by the time we're done, 1.4% or something like that. We know there are other factors there. It wasn't the money from the billionaires that beat us. Okay. We can, again, if you need to fund a campaign, we have plenty of people who can do that. And I will say again, I wish we didn't need to do it that way, but that's the system. And that's, or you get people like Dan Goldman, who I have seen constantly rip the crap out of Republicans, who's been on the right side of stuff, who hasn't been scared of this stuff. I mean, he comes from, I think, is it the Ralph Lauren or Levi Strauss, or he comes from some fortune. And he's sitting there ripping billionaires and ripping, Republicans for only caring about the rich. I don't think that doesn't make you a hypocrite. Again, that's what FDR did. It makes you the exact opposite. You're arguing to raise your own taxes. You're arguing to regulate your whatever company you may be connected to more. That's a good thing. That's what we want people who have, I'm not going to reject anybody who has money. Just believe in the right things, and I mean, okay. So we've talked a lot about this, and I've got stuff out of my system. Maybe you did too, although you said you wanted to punch a wall before. Do you need to do any wall punching at all?
I'll wait till after the show, but thank you.
Okay. So now let's talk about some good stuff about what you're up to.
Yeah.
Tell everybody here, because a lot of people who right away were like, "Oh, I love mysteries," MSTK3, MSTK3. I'm getting there's too many letters in there. MST3K. Sorry. There you go. And like, which I did, I always have, and I don't know why I always get that wrong, but riff racks and a lot of other stuff you've been up to. So talk to us about what you're doing, and then maybe we'll talk about your background a little bit and like how you got into all this fun stuff.
Yeah, I grew up in Brooklyn, like I said before. It's so funny. We're talking about two guys in the Midwest. You're like a Manhattan kid. Yankees fan. Yeah, and I started out mostly like in theater and comedy. And I moved here to Minneapolis just for like 1 year at the time, because I got like a writing fellowship through a place called the Playwright Center. And it was like the only offer I had coming out of grad school. So I came here and I thought I would.
Where did you go to grad school?
I went to Yale Drama School.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
Look at wow.
Yeah.
You and DeSantis at Yale, huh? I'm just kidding with you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We were good buddies. We were good.
Dude, listen, I went to Penn, and the two worst humans in the world went there, Elon Musk and Donald Trump. So I can't say anything about anybody.
There's a lot of worst humans who came out of Yale. I mean, my God. I mean, even vice presidential couch boy, whose name I cannot remember.
The couch guy.
Yeah.
Couch humper. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Can't order donuts. Yeah.
Straight from the holler to the halls of Yale.
That's right. Yeah. Right.
but yeah, I came out here and I thought I would see the land of Prince, and mostly I knew it for Prince, honestly, and a little bit for Prairie Home Companion, which I did not quite get. But
I
it
still
was
don't get
great.
it. But
It was great, and you know that they really take the art seriously here. And then I just kept kind of finding stuff to do, and eventually I found these guys who were putting on Mystery Science Theater, and I sat in with them, and as a writer. And then when the original guy who played Crow, the robot, left,
yep.
Trace Beaulieu, they gave me his puppet, and I just kind of went in, not quite ready, but eventually caught up, and it's been great. And in the meantime, I've been writing plays and screenplays, and having a weird show business career, mostly from here in Minneapolis, although I did live in LA for quite a while when my daughter was like 1 year old, and then we started looking at house prices, and you're thinking, are we gonna settle here or not? And really, I would have had to just like knock it out of the park every year to afford where we wanted to live at the time. So also, you know, my in-laws were back here, so grandma and grandpa and babysitters, and you know, it made the
You just
choice.
named every reason I ended up in Cincinnati, which I love now, by the way. But
Very
my wife and
parallel
I had our
stories.
1 year old. Right.
Yeah.
We're looking at Cincinnati. We're looking at DC and New York. We're like, that's expensive. Do we want to move all the way out to like West Virginia? I'm like, no, I don't want to move there. And so I was like, what? She's like, you know, Cincinnati's growing and had some great restaurants, and the arts are terrific here, and it has actual professional sports teams. At least theoretically, they lose most of the time. But you know, I just was like, and yeah, it's been great. So I understand why you moved to Minneapolis. I find it interesting. So you were never doing the Mystery Science Theater from LA. It was always from Minneapolis.
Yeah, always from here. I know they did a more recent version of it with younger people. That was filmed in LA, and
jerks.
I am joking, but they did make me like I was a guest on it a couple of times. It was very nice. But they did a bunch of those from LA. I think now there's the more recent version was in Pennsylvania. I don't know. But yeah, the original show started here, and that's where I did it. And it's very, very not typical to have something grow that way. It just happened to be.
Well, I was going to ask that. Well, because a pre-internet age, right? I mean, now you can do something from all sorts of places, you know, and you doesn't matter. I can do this from Cincinnati as easily as I can do this from New York. But back then, you know, so the challenges of distribution. So how did you have a lucky moment, or just your product obviously was funny as hell? So maybe that just took care of it, or I don't know. But
I think it was a combination of both. There were a couple of things happening, and some of this was before I got to the show, but it was cable TV it's this long ago, was still sorting itself out. And there was two channels called the Comedy Channel and the Ha Ha Channel that came together and formed what eventually would be Comedy Central. And what, you know, this was
they should have kept it named the Ha Ha Channel. I like
Ha Ha Channel. Sounds like a bad strip mall comedy club. The Ha Ha Club. But in this case, it was like they really needed a lot of content suddenly, and they can only afford so many reruns of Gilligan's Island or original programming. So this was basically a local cable show that started to get some notoriety, and the timing was very good. It filled 2 hours of airtime, which was great. Movies that were either in public domain or extremely cheap to get, and then a bunch of guys in the Midwest who weren't asking for a lot of money. And Joel Hodgson, who was the original host of the show, had a little bit of a reputation that he had been on Letterman and Saturday Night Live, I think. So it just kept going and getting more popular. And it was kind of easy to film it out here. And we were far enough away that we didn't get that many like notes from producers and stuff.
And they didn't annoy the crap out of you, huh?
Out of sight, out of mind. You know, it's gonna just keep sending us those 2 hours of puppety fun, and we'll leave you alone. The other thing was, like you said, the internet was starting right about the same time. So like it was a very nerd appreciated show, to say, I don't know how else to say it. And they were the guys who like started and knew the internet, so they were spreading the word. And yeah, a lot of early message boards about the show, so it was
God, it's
really
such my level of comedy.
really good timing.
Like, you guys just sitting there making obnoxious remarks and sarcastic, or I mean, like, I could do that all day if somebody would pay me to do that, like as me or as a puppet or whatever the hell. I mean, like, I would just sit there sometimes. I think I'm trying to remember when it would come on. You know, I think it was it would have been Comedy Central at the time, but maybe it was something else. That it was.
It eventually
I don't know,
moved to the Sci-Fi Channel, which was
that's
which
what it was.
a
So it
weird
would
bit.
come
Yeah.
on like at night or something. I want to say, or something like that, or maybe I'm wrong. But whatever
All
it was,
different time zones at different times.
I was free whenever it was. I think it was when I was in
Yeah.
college, right? And so I would just sit there, and you know, I was often at times partaking in certain products that weren't necessarily quite legal, but now are. Yay! And other products that were legal then, you know, like tequila, that are legal now. And I just would have. I mean, watching that, it was like my house. There were like 4 of us my senior year lived in this house, and we would just sit there. And man, you guys, it was awesome.
Honestly, college students kept us going for a while, I think.
I bet, right? So you did that, and you wrote a movie that Eddie Murphy was in.
Yeah.
Come on, let's talk about it. How did that happen?
That happened because I wrote a script, and then I asked my buddy, who is more of a Hollywood guy, Rob Greenberg is his name, and if you Google him, you can see he has a ton of credits. But he was writing on Frasier, the Kelsey Grammer, beloved Kelsey Grammer vehicle at the time. And I said, I think I need a partner in this because I don't know my way around Hollywood as well, and you have a good sense of structure and all that. So he became co-writer, and we sold it. We just sold it outright, which is rare. And
that's outstanding, because you hear all those stories of the piles of scripts. Because, you know, it's been an aspiration. I mean, I feel like I've now written, you know, ads, direct mail, emails, you know, to raise money. I've written, I mean, I had a column of the Daily Beast, and then one of the Guardian for a while. I wrote a book or whatever. And I've always felt like I'm a frustrated, I want to write something for TV or, you know, or Hollywood. But the issue is always, can I take that kind of time for something that I feel like has a 2% chance of ever seeing the light of day? You know what I mean? And whereas if I want to write poetry or songs, which I do sometimes too, I don't care, because I can do that in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If it never sees the light of day, it never sees the light of day. But you know, I think I may have told you that before. I got out of graduate school, a communications program in public policy and all of that. And I went through this moment because I'd been writing for this thing called The Follies, these comedy shows at our school. And a bunch of my friends were like, dude, just move out to Hollywood. You know that's what you want to do. And I swear, if I didn't have like the Jewish mother and grandmother and whatever, were like, don't you dare, you have this education and, you know, blah, 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 blah. So it was like I was going to move to DC or Hollywood, a big moment in my life. And I went with what the education was. I swear to God, I asked myself,
should I go to Hollywood for ugly people or Washington for dumb people? Hollywood.
I think sometimes that LA would have been more of my speed, but you know, I would have enjoyed that.
You know, it's a beast of a town. It's hard to do anything. I mean, you know, all of the things that didn't get produced over the years that I wrote are really what I feel sometimes more than. So Rob and I sold this thing, and it was called Starship Dave at the time. That's the title we sold it under. I don't like the title change, honestly. I think it takes away a little of the fun. But yeah, and the first person they were going for was a guy named Steve Carell. And I had not heard of him at the time. That's how long ago it was. Like, but he just got The Office or something like that. But Eddie Murphy eventually signed on and changed studios, and he did a great job. The script changes over the time. It got into the hands of some other writers. I don't think it's a great movie, but I enjoyed it, the experience. I'm grateful for it.
I thought it was pretty funny.
Bought a house. Kids like it. it became more of a kids movie because the guys who produced Elf were involved, and they tried to make it more like Elf, and you can see that in the kid suddenly had like a little companion kid, but it was great fun. I'm very grateful for it. Right after that, Riff Track started, which is my friends Mike Nelson and Kevin Murphy, and so I've been doing mostly that ever since. But I'm getting back into the screenwriting world now. And
so you're working on scripts?
I am working on something with a different friend of mine. It's more of a thriller mystery thing, and that's going out soon. See what they think. Fingers crossed.
Well, that's awesome. You
Yeah.
know, I discovered, I didn't know this. So a friend of mine looked it up the other day. I don't know why I never bothered that I have an IMDb because I was hired. So this was a film that was winning awards at, like it was going to, on the film festival circuit, winning awards. It was about, you know, people coming together. It starts off as a movie. There's somebody who's going to be a terrorist, but it has a plot about people learning to get along and everything. And I was recommended to them because they didn't feel like it was getting enough PR. They felt like it would have a message beyond the general audience that specifically would hit like the liberal political world. And so I started off, you know, promoting, and then there were some changes made, and I gave them a couple lines, which they liked, and a few other things. And they ended up naming me an executive, was it executive producer? Something like that. Harry Lennox was in it. You know who Harry Lennox from The Blacklist?
Yeah.
And so he was the star attached to it. And it was just funny because I discovered it the other day. I'm like, hey, I have an IMDb. There's like one thing there. But I had no idea it even existed. So, you know,
maybe where are all these residuals coming from? What?
I know. Where? So, no, trust me.
What is the name of it, Cliff?
So it was yeah, check it out sometime. So it was called The Algerian. And then eventually when the company, and I'm sure again what you're talking about, rewrites and scripts, whoever it was, the bigger company that eventually picked it up, made them change the name to Sleeper Cell, which I thought was stupid. I thought I mean, anybody can say Sleeper Cell. The Algerian, I thought had something more interesting to it. And around 2015 or so is when is when it came out. And it actually went to about 30 or 40 movie theaters in cities around the country. So I know not some huge, you know, whatever, but the fact that we were in a number of towns and movie theaters, and that was kind of just being a part of that.
Yeah.
You know, was, you know, being able to show up to the premiere and all of that. That was all new for me, you know, and it was a fun experience just to be a part of. So
neat. Who
knows? Maybe go ahead.
No, that's all I was gonna say. That's really cool.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe if I do find time sometime, and I'll sit and try to. I have an idea for something that I've wanted to bang out for a long time. It's sort of like it'd be like a Book of Mormon type thing, making fun of the gun nuts. It would have a lot of comedy in it, but and I've got ideas for where certain parts of it would go, but we'll see if I ever get around to it.
Yeah. Do it.
So yeah, I know I got to do it. So you're doing Riff Racks, and thank you guys. Yes, Patreon. We love Patreon, and go there, folks, and be kind, and then I can do more of this.
Yeah,
more of these interviews with big stars like Bill Corbett.
No, by the way, bigger. You got to get bigger than me. Get Mark Hamill on here.
You know, I know him from way back, and
I remember that.
But the handlers at some point took over. He's gotten on Stephanie Miller's show, so clearly the handlers will allow him to do some things. Maybe they don't like me. I don't know. But I was trying for a while, and like they, especially when his sort of rebirth, when he was in the new set of movies came out, and there was a lot more demand for him. They were like, stay away from Cliff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he got one more layer of handlers after that.
Yeah. So, you know, but I do have some, I think I've said it to some of the audience where I've got, I actually do have, Mark Cuban has agreed to come on, which should be interesting.
That's
Maybe
awesome.
I'll talk to him about billionaires, and we'll see his, but I got, Phil Collin, who's been a friend for a long time. We were on a radio show together, the guitarist for Def Leppard. Will be not Phil Collins, Phil Collin.
Okay.
Ending with an N. He's the longtime guitarist of Def Leppard. I'm a rock and roll kind of guy. And then I recently worked on this project fighting what ended up becoming an ethnic cleansing of sorts, horrible, by Azerbaijan. Putin gave them the go-ahead of this Armenian enclave. And I got to work with Serge Tankian, who's the lead singer of System of a Down, a metal band. And so, those are some people.
Cliff, are you a metalhead?
I am everything. Yeah, if it's got like a ass-kicking guitar and drums, I love it.
Wow.
But to me, that can be anything from, like, I love Springsteen. I love U2. I've seen them all. I went out to the Sphere to see U2. I saw Springsteen multiple times, including in Jersey. So yes, I make it over to metal, but it's like everything in between, from grunge to some, I don't know if you'd call it sort of alternative rock and roll, like Green Day. Like there's a lot in between there. But yes, I like my music with an ass-kicking guitar riff, a lead singer with a lot of range in their voice, and who can screech, and some really good drums. So that encompasses a lot. Because I'll still go back to like the Who and the Stones and stuff I love from the 60s too. So it's a broad array, but there's going to be definitely a lot of rock and roll kind of stuff going on the show here, because I love it.
That's awesome.
Just like with you, like comedy I love. So I want to broaden the what we do here. So, all right. Well, thank you, Sheldon. All right. We got a super chat for another great guest. Yes. See, my great guests help me get super chats.
Well, you mean
Bill, you don't even try it. I've met this guy in person, folks, and he tries to act like he's just a regular guy, but the brilliance is in the air.
No. Hey, I know who you got to get Frank Conniff on. You know Frank?
I don't actually. If you know him, and you can introduce me.
He's good buddies with John Fugelsang, because they used to do that that show for
right. Was it VH1? Yeah.
Yeah. No. Not VH1. Sorry, I'm looking for satellite radio. Sirius.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just went on his show the other night. Well, it was funny. That same day he came on here 2 days ago, he suddenly texted me and was like, he does the 9 to 12 p.m. He's like, my 11:15 p.m. guest canceled. I'm like, John, I love you enough that I will come on at 11:15 and be exhausted the next day.
I think there was actually a guest on John's show years ago, John, on that show. But yeah, Frank and him are buddies, and he was like his sidekick, his Ed McMahon for years on that. And Frank is more political than me, and he's very, very funny. So you got.
Well, I'll hit up both of you guys, you and John, for some of your, because I mean, again, I know a few other comedians too. It's always either radio or TV shows I've done, or on social media. I just happen to come across people's paths who are, who are funny and interesting people. But you never can know enough, because again, I mean, we're being serious. We're back to being serious now, but I swear to God, I could sit here and make jokes with you all day, and it would be such a pleasure. So, all right, so you're in Minnesota. You're good. How old are the kids now? Are they still around?
No, my daughter's in college. My other kid is in junior year of high school. So,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I started
you guys
as
are
a
a few
dad
years older
after
than
40
mine.
years old. What's that?
Yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, I was a little under 40. But you guys are just a couple of years older than I've got an 18 and a 15-year-old. So
it was cool this year. My daughter's now a sophomore in college, and the first year was a little shaky, getting used to it. She's having the time of her life now. And if there's one bit of wisdom I can pass on to anybody, is like, try to go away to college if you can afford it, because I do think it really changes your, I don't know, it makes you into an adult. It's a little challenging, but even
you have to.
Kid like my daughter, who was kind of shy and didn't want to leave home particularly, she would never want otherwise now. She has such good friends up there.
Yeah, you have to negotiate that stuff. And, so are you guys you thinking you're going to stay in Minnesota?
For the time being, because my in-laws are here and they're pretty old, so we're sort of taking care of them. After that, I don't know. We might do the Minnesota thing of being snowbirds if we can afford it. Like summers here then LA.
Don't go to Florida though.
No.
Yeah,
no.
LA.
My brother did that, and I said, buddy, I am never going to visit you there. Sorry. I've seen it.
There's only one place I go to and I like in Florida, because they hate Republicans, which is Key West.
Oh
You're
yeah.
closer. You're so close to Cuba. It has so much of that influence. It's so liberal. I think I brought up the other day that they put up signs directly contradicting DeSantis's order that you couldn't wear masks, and they basically were like, "F DeSantis, you're wearing a mask here." So that's the one place in Florida that I am comfortable. Otherwise, if I have the money to be a snowbird, I absolutely will be in Southern California.
Yeah.
Or at least somewhere like that.
Yeah.
You know, out west, Tucson or Santa Fe or somewhere where I love the West and the mentality too. I mean, our biggest problem is I love, you know, at least you're still in a blue state. I love this city, and this city, you know, and this county has become more and more Democratic. You know, I mean, I think the last one, there was still a Republican prosecutor, and we knocked him out this time. So I think every single county elected official now is Democratic. But I got to contend with the rest of this insane state now. And
yeah,
you know,
it's really gotten bad. And I think you know this, but like I have family there in Columbus, the Columbus area. My sister's there. My parents moved out there when I was already out of it. Like I was in college, but it was a job thing. And so my sister was younger and grew up in Columbus.
Oh, in Columbus, yeah.
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 And it's gotten a lot more red since since, you know, the mid 80s.
The rural areas have, you know, again, like sort of that Trumpist extremism, the pull that he seems to have, you know, which I've talked about before. And it was so much this time that, you know, Sherrod, who's a real person, we were talking about real people earlier, doesn't come off, I mean, takes on corporations all, you know, time, comes off like a regular guy. He, you know, would show up in union halls and be comfortable and, you know, slapping backs and stuff. And, you know, we used to have a lot of folks like that here, but in the end, you know, they suppress God knows how many votes with their Secretary of State in the cities, the 3 C's, as we call them, Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland, but also even Akron and Dayton and places like that. And the rural voters come out. And I do think that's going to change to a certain degree. It's just, I used to feel like we were, you know, Trump had made it look worse than it was because he ran on such Ohio issues like the anti-trade stuff and the whatever, that we really just leaned in most elections a couple points Republican. But this one was so bad. That I don't know. And, you know, I have very dark thoughts because let's just say a lot of the people who are doing the voting for them, let's just say they're rural and they smoke and they're older and they drink a lot. And they don't. They get mad at Michelle Obama for telling them to have less than 4,000 calories a meal, and they consider exercise walking up 2 steps. And I'll just say, maybe they won't be around as long as us. That can help change the state.
Say no more. Say no more. I don't want to get you in trouble with Kash Patel.
Yeah, I do know this, by the way. About right. Kash is already coming for me about Frank Conniff. I was just saying I don't know him. I know of him.
Yeah.
I know his work. I don't know him personally in the way I know Bill and I know
you
John
will
Fugelsang,
soon. He's a delight
personally. So yeah, that's going to be real tough because I've lived here 13, 14 years now. I've loved this city, you know, developed a neighborhood here. It's a lot like Brooklyn called OTR, has 5-star restaurants, certain chefs who left the East Coast, you know, felt like there's too much competition in LA and New York, like 5-star chefs. I'm sure some of them went to Minneapolis. They'd go to like Kansas City, Cincinnati, like some of the cities that have history, you know, and have, I mean, this, you know, I don't mean to, in an obnoxious way, but there's some old money just because there's corporation, major, you know, like major, you know, Fortune 500s, and Procter and Gamble is headquartered here. Kroger is headquartered here. You still have Scripps here. You have a lot of, so there's reasons to bring people in from outside for jobs. And they weren't providing the neighborhoods downtown for younger folks who wanted to be able to walk to places, crazy idea, I know, and live in an urban lifestyle. And they started doing that. So now we can go to these great restaurants, walk around. It's gotten safer. Like, I love it. But it's difficult because of the damn state. If the state doesn't change back, I mean, there is a point where, like, I'm sitting here watching, you know, Mike DeWine sign trans bathroom bills and whatever, and I'm just like, what are we doing spending our time on this? Like, what, you know, I mean, I it's so frustrating, and they're so dishonest, and they, again, with the ways they lied. Not only did they lie and suppress votes, but they tricked people, because the Secretary of State's allowed to decide the language of ballot measures. 70-something% here supported getting rid of gerrymandering.
Oh,
Put it on the
yeah, I
ballot.
saw that. Yeah.
He lies and makes it sound like the other side is the anti-gerrymandering side. The courts approve it because they're Republican, and we lose 54-46.
Yeah.
You know, and just at some point, I'm going to stay here and fight if I can. But at some point, when my kids are gone, you have to ask myself that question. Like, you know,
For sure.
if this state wants to become Alabama badly enough, how long am I going to put up with that? You know, as much as I love this city. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean,
it's a good question. I do think, I mean, I thought this time around, but I don't think this can go on indefinitely. I mean, and if it does get worse, we're not going to recognize this country. I already kind of don't, but I kind of feel like it's going to change one way or another. It's not going to stay in this state of limbo. But I kind of feel like, all right, we're about to see what happens. And I think there's going to be a lot of disillusionment and generational change. This is my hope. I you know, again, I'm a terrible predictor of things, but I absolutely.
I hope. I mean, too. I think you may be right. And I hope, because again, you know, it's then if it gets that much worse. Now I'm not just looking to like purple or blue states. I'm looking to blue countries in Western Europe.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, I want to say this because I always like to, as a classic example, we went to Italy this summer, and I always loved Diane's last name, saying Capobianco. So I love her last name, and I wanted to apologize for I mean, again, I'm not trying to insult Florida. You just heard what I said about Ohio, and I live here. So I'm talking about the voting population in these states. I'm not talking about every person or the enjoyment of living. You may live in a part of Florida where you absolutely love it. I'm sure there are many great parts, and I'm sure
there are. I've been to them. Sorry, Diane. I don't like to be that way, but anyway, I actually love the Carolinas, and I could consider retiring or semi-retiring as a snowbird there. I don't like the politics, but it also helps to remember that as much as any state seems like a red state, or for that matter, a blue state, that is not, we're not talking about 90 or 95% of the people ever. Even in the reddest of states, there are, you know, there's a
30-something% even, like Wyoming, you at least get, you know, and North Carolina is very close. I mean, we won that state Supreme Court seat that we won by like that much. We won the governorship. You know, I mean, that will be at some point, I think, you know, at least a bluish purple state. But, you know, we'll have to see what happens. But okay, so overall, I've kept you here an hour. I'm not getting rid of you unless you want to go. So,
well, I should probably go because I think we have some noisy people coming in.
Okay, well then, last thing I'll ask. So, plans right now. So, you just as a last thing, you're working on a script with a friend. You're still doing the various other things. Anything else?
Tracks. We're about 18 years into that, and I'm actually starting. This is almost like Make-A-Wish project for old people. I've done a lot of performing over the years, but I've never done straight out stand up except for a couple of times, and I'm starting to do that a little bit.
Oh, please, like, let me know sometime. So between you and Matt McNeil and, you know, my editor for my YouTube channel, Casey Evans, who does it for the Political Voices Network too, which means he edits Fugelsang's clips and Stephanie Miller's clips. And you know, I saw him when I was up there. I just happened to have a bunch of friends up in Minneapolis. I have more friends in Minneapolis than I do in Chicago. I don't know how that worked in terms of population. It's kind of weird, but I happen to know a bunch of you guys up there. So I love, easily, I would tell you folks, if you haven't been, one of it's up there. Arguably, you could say Minneapolis is the most beautiful city in this country. I certainly would put it in the top 5. And I've been to.
Thank you.
I
did it all, of course. No, I love it. You know, I'm still a wimp about the winters, which we're about to head into in a serious way. But what's kind of even about that in New York, where I grew up, and you know, there's a lot that they do here that to know how to make winter more pleasant. But it's not easy. I have to get away at least once a winter for a couple of weeks into a sunny place, especially as I get older and It's harder to walk.
Yeah. No, I know. I was going to say, but I remember that. I just wanted to put this up by Jim, who's one of our moderators. That yes, North Carolina was gerrymandered like crazy. They
You're
pulled
right,
that off
Jim.
illegal, and that we'd have the House if they hadn't
Yeah.
done that. But the same thing here in Ohio. They ignored the Supreme Court. They slow walked it. The Supreme Court never stepped up and said, you know what? If you're not going to draw the maps, we are, which is what they did in Wisconsin. And the Republicans slow walked it, so we only gained 1 seat. They only made it slightly more fair when we should have gained 3 to 4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So those kinds of things are why we don't have
Totally.
a majority in the House right now, which is
Well,
frustrating.
just to keep it on end on a slightly optimistic note.
Yeah,
I
let's
will
end on
say
a good note here.
You mentioned Wisconsin. Yeah, things are terrible. It's unfair and it's infuriating, like the thing that Jim says about North Carolina. But Wisconsin is now pulling itself out of that, that horrible sort of limbo that it was in for a long time, ever since Walker and company just destroyed the government there. And I think there's some hopeful signs. I'm not going to predict anything, of course, because I'm often wrong, but I do feel like if it's fought on enough fronts, it's going to the Trump front is going to collapse eventually, especially when they see that he's not going to do shit for them, honestly.
Well, I also think he has, and you should know this as a performer, and I guess I'm a performer of sorts. He can walk the one brilliance Trump has, and it's the only one, because he's literally bad at everything else, from putting on his diapers to eating hamburgers that are like with ketchup that are like, well done, to lying about everything and treason and the rest. But the one thing he has is he has that animal instinct of a con man, and performers have it too sometimes, where you can walk in a room and figure out what everybody wants and make those people laugh and cater to those people. He is unique that way, and that's why you saw so many Democratic senators win. Ruben Gallego, Jackie Rosen. The only states where we lost, with the exception of Pennsylvania, are ones where we were overwhelmed, where Trump won by so many points that some of the people then voted down ticket. So even if it was a 10-point drop, that still screwed us in Ohio and in Montana. But he has that, and he has the other two traits, whereas there are people that have that gift, but also aren't sociopaths. They have empathy.
Yeah, and also, honestly, the 30 to 40 plus years of PR, spreading his image as a business genius, which nobody has, and so he's pushing 80. He'll tip over eventually, and then they won't have that.
And then it's the list, because I'll give that list to you quickly.
Yeah,
Tom Cotton, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, Ron DeSantis, Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz. I dare you to find anything that is positive charisma among that group.
Charisma vacuums every one of them.
Yes.
They actually,
it's like
leech charisma from other people.
It's like a black hole. It's like an event horizon, I would call it, of charisma. It's like we just watched Interstellar again the other night, me and my kid. It just sucks charisma, those guys. So I don't think they have anybody who can replicate what Trump's done. And I do think there is hope there. Listen, I'm going to let you go. I could talk to you forever.
Thanks, Cliff.
You are, what I think of you. You're an outstanding person and outstanding fighter for what you believe in, and funny as F. And
thank you.
I want to apologize. They demonetized me, so I have to not curse, which kills me.
I'm sorry. I think I let go as one.
Oh, no. You can let a few go. I try to be careful because if guests let a few go, but there's like a limit. And, so the first few times I did this, every other word, because that's me as a New Yorker. So I figure I try to save them up for times when I get really pissed and I need to say it.
Good idea.
But you're awesome. You're great. Be in touch, please.
Thanks, Cliff.
How about that?
All right. Good luck. I'll put you in touch with Frank. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I really, this has been a week. We've had John Fugelsang, Jamie Schler, and now Bill Corbett, who are three of the nicest human beings that I've met doing what I do. And that's honesty. I mean, again, there may be 20 or 25 of them, but for every 20 or 25 who are that nice, there's like 1,000 that are not. So he is funny and fantastic, and what a great guy. Yeah, thank you, Deborah. I mean, that's the thing, and I'm really glad that you guys are all into this. I've told you again, this show this channel will be based around politics, but for my sanity right now, but also just because I'm interested in what makes people tick. It's why I try to get to know you guys. Don't worry, Deborah, if you missed Jamie, we rebroadcast it twice, and you can go to the channel. You can go to just my channel, Cliffs_Edge at Cliffs_Edge, and click on live, and you can rebroadcast there. You're by yourself. We've rebroadcast it in general. You can watch any of the ones. And Jamie was on Bill and John this week for an hour, so you can catch plenty of. They're just, I almost feel like maybe it's a stronger feeling right now because on a grand stage we're seeing so many terrible people. Or honestly, it's almost like a bingo game or roulette. Let's roll and see what terrible traits we can come with. Sexual assaulter. All right. Oh, look, you shared some secrets with the Iranians. Oh, look at that. You committed financial impropriety and stole money from your company. You sound like a good Secretary of Homeland Security, and that seems to be the way we're doing it. And so to me, as you may find, being surrounded by friends and family, people you love, people you care about, I kind of feel like even among the guests I have here, the people I really like, it's important for me to have folks that are just genuinely off camera as awesome as they are on camera. I don't want to have people on that are yeah, they're great on camera, but I know that they're not terrific people off, because there's just too many not terrific people out there right now. They're being thrown in our faces. And so I definitely want to do this. This was a little shorter than others. So if you guys have questions, it is a basket of deplorables, Cynthia. Let me put this up here by Jim. And then I'm going to tell you, just so you guys know, again, I'm so excited. I'm talking a little bit later today to the admin I'm going to add, who's going to make sure that we keep our TikTok channel up and moving, because that's not been going. That this channel, we're taking our live streams and we're cutting my original rants into 5-minute videos, that we're getting shorts out of it, good conversations. So we've got even a lot more content, so that I am on time with things. Especially, I've said many times how guilty I feel about that the membership stuff has not been kept up to date, and I've promised you all it will, and now it finally will, because that's going to be her first priority. She's amazing. Is to make sure that we are getting in there and getting people. We're going to sort of, I think, streamline it and make it so you'll know, and set it to the sort of where we were supposed to in terms of what it'll cost, either $5 a month for this or whatever, and you'll get one thing or two things or three things. It'll be very straightforward. You'll know what you're getting. And I'll ask you guys to do that to support me doing this, because again, I want to do more of this, but like everything else, time and it needs to be something, and where we're bringing in enough revenue. Now, right now, the YouTube revenue's increased from ads, which is terrific. Where did I see? My friend Michael McAndrews here gave one of the most generous gifts I have ever seen to me last time, and that helps a huge amount. So really, any small amount, super stickers, super chats, becoming members is incredibly helpful. We're gonna have merch. I think hopefully you haven't all gotten your Christmas tree ornaments, because I have some great ideas for some ornaments that I think we may get rushed out there. And if you're like me and you're late on buying Christmas presents, maybe we can get some of those put together if I can get with my new admin quickly. But all the different ways we can bring revenue in here, maybe we'll build more of a presence on Twitch, all of those things, because we, in Facebook, where we'll put videos up, because I've got to make it so that this is a financially viable model, and then I can put in the kind of time I'm putting in. And Michael McAndrews, keep on talking, Pink Floyd. Now you give me $10. You're too good for me, is what you are. I really appreciate that. And we'll see what we can do. But $3 is small, but goes a long way, is what Talia is saying. Yes. So I don't know if that means you're giving $3, but please do, because I can even, again, 3, 2, whatever. It adds up, lets me pay an admin so I can get some of those other things done so I can spend more time on here. And that's good. So I won't do the, we're not quite done, I don't think. I'm not going to do come on. But what I will do is, what do you got for me? What questions you got? Maggie Pie. Why aren't moderate conservatives speaking out? Some are. The problem is, most of the moderate conservatives have already, in some ways we don't look at them as moderate conservatives. They're Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney and people that have already, Jeff Flake, have already done it. The one that has spoken out in the Senate and said some things is Lisa Murkowski, who has stood up. Thank you for that, Deborah. That also, by the way, if you subscribe, guys, we are less than 1,400 subscriptions away from 100,000. They give me, YouTube decides I'm viable and gives me a marketing person to talk to. Now, let's hope it's not like just a phone number and they never answer. But if it's legit, that may help too. So even by subscribing, you could be really helpful. But in terms of moderate conservatives, there are former judges who have. A lot of them spoke out during the election. I've seen a bunch of them still saying things. I don't have necessarily new ones for you I can think of. But even Barr criticized Kash Patel when he was nominated. He spoke out. Bolton spoke out about Kash Patel. So some are. I don't even know you can't call them moderate conservatives. They're like right-wing kooks. But I'll put this up there from Jim because Jim has got it right. But yes, we can always use more, right? The more from everywhere that we can get. Again, this is why I've talked about and why I did give Gavin Newsom credit, because the power of knowing there's other people out there like you and who are willing to speak out. Somebody actually quoted the line that I'd said the other day, and they didn't take it from me. I think they just said it, which is courage is contagious. But you know what else? Cowardice is contagious too. And that's why we need people speaking out, because if you see other people doing it, and that's why what Newsom is doing is so important. And that's why I keep saying, Kathy Hochul in New York, maybe you're doing it, I don't know about it, but why aren't you? Why aren't you saying you're going to strengthen every state court you can? You're going to protect, every population, various minority populations, those who are suffering more economically. I did see Pritzker say something in Illinois, but I want to hear more from him too. We need these bastions of liberalism to step up. But it gets covered by local papers. This is PR. I want city councils doing it. I may go harass my Cincinnati City Council why they haven't put out a proclamation. No, I'm not going to turn in immigrants to you. No, we're not going to tell you when women are going to other states. Well, actually, we're legal for choice here now. So oops on that one, but we're not going to tell you anything about women's bodies. Their bodies, screw you. LGBTQ community. This is the city from where the Oberfell case came. You think we're telling you anything you want to know? Screw you. I want to see that from everybody. I want to see that from city council members. I want to see that from mayors. I want to see that from small town sheriffs. I want to see from dog catchers. I want everybody speaking up. Everybody. If you're president of a local PTA, if you're president of a local Rotary Club, I don't care what it is. Any group, some mom's group that gets together, some dad's group that gets together. Speak up. Make yourself heard. Again, courage, contagious, very contagious. And Maggie Pie, you're fantastic, because sometimes it can also be contagious for very kind people to give me a super chat, and that is a very, very, very generous one, and I really appreciate it. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it. You're correct. So thank you, Maggie Pie. You can't. What Jim is saying here is true. Letitia James is ready. So maybe if Kathy Hochul won't do it, because it's true, AG is just as important. They can step out and file numerous lawsuits. Every Democratic AG in a purple or a blue state should file every lawsuit they can get their hands on against the Trump administration. Everything. Slow them down. Do what they do to us. Again, use media. Use proclamations and spectacle and everything we're talking about with Bill so that the media will cover you, right? Hold events. Hold events with people that have been harmed and impacted, especially those that are innocent who have been. Do everything you can, but also, again, political figures speak out. I don't care. Anybody who has a mic in front of them, speak out. So you said that, I'll go back to this, that Republicans aren't quite conservative anymore. If that what you mean is they're fascist, you are correct. Michael, you're going to have to propose soon if you keep doing this. I kid because I love and I really do. Thank you so much. I wish I could say something more than that. But I think also maybe we'll start making there be a connection. Look, if you got good ideas, I want to share what you have to say and all of that. But maybe we'll start connecting whose names I share on the screen, or maybe at the beginning of each show, I'm gonna or end. We'll have a running sort of list of names of those who either are members or have given super chats and super stickers, so that you guys get the sort of acknowledgement that I wish to give you and that you deserve for being so kind, because you should. And that makes me go to JD Christine, say again, a super sticker. Thank you so much. Because everybody by being here makes the show possible. But those of you who can, and again, I don't want to ask anybody, if you're not in a financial position, don't. I don't want anybody suffering in any way due to this. So I'm talking to folks who can afford it, obviously, are in a position to do it. But everybody who's here makes the show possible. People who are able to and give make the show that much more possible, because this week now, it used to have the Wednesday show with no guest that I only did for an hour. We'll now have done 3 shows that'll approach 2 hours this week, all with what I consider, and you guys have said you consider, great guests. And so I want to keep that up. But it takes time, it takes effort, it takes me time to prepare my little monologue at the beginning, especially when I toss it 15 minutes ahead of time like today. I have to rewrite it. It takes time to get those guests to come on. And just to do this. So thank you, Starlene, about the message. And you called me Cliffy, which I like. It actually is, I've always taken it as a term of affection, and that I've shown people that I'm informal enough they feel comfortable calling me that. So courage is contagious is a incredibly important message. And it's even alliterative, you see? So use it. Because one person can make a difference. One great speech can change history. It has before, right? Think of them. Think of I Have a Dream. Think of Gettysburg Address. Think of a lot of ones less famous than those that have changed the local tide somewhere. I think Zelensky's done some of that when he just stood up and spoke out and they said, you can get free passage out of the country. He's like, I'm not leaving. Well, I was elected president. I'm not leaving my people here. Their fate will be my fate, and I will stay here and I will fight every step of the way for my country, my sovereign state. And I mean, Zelensky showing that kind of courage, I think it helped unify Ukraine to fight. Maggie Pie, I'd love for you to interview more Americans abroad. People like Jamie bring so much clarity. They do, right? And that's why that one was a perfect one, because I talked about what happened in South Korea and Turkey. Not Turkey, Brazil. I don't know why Turkey came out of my mouth. Probably because I said something about Erdogan being terrible earlier. Let me think about that, because I do know other Democrats abroad. Hell, I could get people on here that are folks abroad, literally French and British and others, to tell us what they see from their side. There's a couple great commentators I'm friendly with who I had on my past audio podcast that are commentators in the United Kingdom or France, who I've gotten to know, that I could have come on and say what it looks like, the mess we look like from their side of the pond. But yes, let me think more about Americans I know living abroad who would be good for this. So I do think their perspectives are incredibly important. I think this is exactly right. Zelensky's inspired others, and it needs to be done, because look at the hits they've taken. I mean, there's got to be a lot of fear when the United States is not only now, you fear it's not an ally, but may join the somewhat larger now axis of evil. I mean, if we're standing there with the autocrats, with the Orbans and the Xis and the Putins and the Erdogans and the Milei, I think it's Milei, the one in Argentina, is already crashing his economy. We don't want to stand with those folks at all. What else do we have, guys? There is a saying, from penny to create. Don't worry about the darkness, for that is when stars shine brightest. It is a great saying. That was a great saying. Again, look for inspiration. And that's kind of my point about courage being contagious, because somebody can say something, one person can say something that influences everybody. But imagine now when all sorts of people get up. The theme of every great movie, right? I am Spartacus, or Captain my Captain, or think of all those times where one person is going to take the blame and everyone else stands up to be with them and support them. We need more comedians in leadership. Jesse James, I would agree with that. Zelensky has proven he can be serious when he needs to, but he can be funny. That's why you have the John Fugelsang's and Bill Corbett's. We have members of the House like that, again, strong as hell. And, you know, I've said Swalwell and Jasmine Crockett, people like that, who can be strong 1 second and then can be funny. Very effective. Very effective if you can mock them. All right, guys, I think that is about it. Michael McAndrews, maybe we'll read this last because it's important. I already know all good Americans and world leaders are appalled by Dumpy Stump and the Nazi-like nut jobs. Yeah, of course. I mean, I've been abroad before the election when Italians were fearful that we would do this. And I sadly told them, oh, we're probably going to be okay. I think it's fine. Screwed that one up. And I will be going abroad in the near future to France. And, you know, I can only imagine. I've got a good friend from when I studied over there, a French friend. So I can only imagine what he'll have to say. So that's it. Who's going to be my one new member? Who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? Don't make me take the goldfish out. Come on. Who's going to be my person? Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? I don't want to get up and start dancing to show me the money. Actually, that's sort of the opposite of what I'm asking. I'm asking someone to in a generous way to come with me, not just to hand me a pile of money. So maybe that's the opposite. But who's coming with me? Am I going to have to leave here with nobody coming with me? Nobody? No new members? Not a one? Nobody wants to join Patreon? Nothing? You're gonna hurt me? It's all good, guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the kind words. I saw that Talia before had said the guest from France was so interesting. Jamie, yes, she was. Don't want to lose sight of that just because Bill was so interesting today. I think it was like, you know, the week we got 3, and Jamie was perfect in the middle because she did something different. I wanted the comedians to be on either end, and then in the middle, we got Jamie, who had a completely other interest in food and was fascinating. Please like and subscribe. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Kathleen Matthews, I got here late. That's okay. You can rewatch these. I will have Hal Sparks on. He is a busy dude, as you know, doing 47 streams a week. Not as easy. You know, Hal does like multiple streams, a radio show on Saturdays. He's got 2 rock bands. He's not what I would call a man with lots of leisure time on his hands. All right. So is anybody going to save me here, or am I going to have to leave with the goldfish? Do I have to leave with the goldfish? Anyone? You going to save me? One new member. That's all I ask. One new member. All right. I don't think we're going to get it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting the guest. Thank you for supporting me. This will be rebroadcast, as I've told you, so for those who got here late, 9 o'clock tonight, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then probably this show and the others at various points over the weekends, because I don't do a Friday show. But if some of you folks join, Diane just became a member at Patreon. I include that. That's perfect. Thank you. Or Diana, I'm sorry. That counts. Huge. And I promise you, be patient. Next week or 2, whole new world there. I can finally say that and say that with confidence because I've got somebody to help me do it. I will because with that Patreon, all the other things, then I can do special videos for you guys. We're definitely gonna start doing a couple extra videos for you, but maybe I can even add on either Monday or Friday a fourth stream. I'm not sure I have the ability to do that yet, but if there are enough members, enough super chats, I'm able to do that and do that for maybe just like more of a we just talk to each other session, 45 minutes or an hour. JD Christie, member for 2 months. Look at that. Awesome. Thank you. That's fantastic. So yeah, you know what, guys? I think it's a good way to end it because it's been awesome, and I want to leave on these good feelings. We're going to kick their butts. You saw what South Korea did in 8 hours. I'm going to push President Biden to put the damn ERA out there to get it published. Don't listen to any fake, Congress saying there's a time limit. Screw that. Not in the Constitution. And yes, 100,000 subscribers on YouTube is coming. I think I'm 1,350 shy last I looked, or something like that. Something like that. So go subscribe. Let's get there. You guys have been great. Have yourself a wonderful afternoon, an even better evening. And as the sun sets slowly in the west, I bid you a fond farewell, guys.